how you like it, yeah.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the We Don't Know TV podcast. My name is Leaf. I am your host. This is a podcast where we talk about the first episode of a show, and then we talk about it. That might have been redundant. Anyways, so we just only talk about the first episode of a show. So, a couple things. I recorded 2 more episodes after the first 2, and I messed up the audio. So, and I tried to fix it, and I wasn't happy with it. So I'm going to re-record this one. The other one I'll decide if I want to do it again. So if it seems like I am almost like unenthusiastic or like kind of lost, it's because I'm like going through my thoughts again. But then also this time I took notes, so it's a little easier to re-record it. That being said, this one is also different, as I just stated. I took notes this time, so I'm kind of going like beat for beat through the episode. So this episode will be longer. The outline I'm kind of doing for this one is I'm going to talk about the episode. I'll give it my rating at the end, and then I'll go into like a spoiler section. So if you haven't seen this show, I'll let you know beforehand. Like I'll do like a countdown. That way you don't have to get spoiled for the season. But yeah, I figured that's, I let you guys know ahead of time in case you're like, what's up with this one? So let me just get right into it. So today we're talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi, the TV show. Let me start off with, now this part was skippable, but why skip it? This trailer that they, or recap, whatever you want to call it, that they put before the episode is such a, it's well done. It's very well done, and it's very misleading at the same time. And it's so frustrating because when you watch this recap, it gives you the idea that the prequels are this focused story of Obi and Anakin's kind of journey together and Anakin's fall to the dark side. But if you've seen the movies, you know that isn't the truth because the prequels just had too much shit going on, which is a whole nother discussion in itself. But I thought this trailer was awesome to kind of remind you of kind of the focus story of where Obi and Anakin have been. So kudos to it. I just wish that George Lucas gave us better movies. Anyways, so we get this dope intro of this Jedi Master with a bunch of younglings. And shit just immediately pops off. And I really like that part, that it wasn't like the clone troopers were like, hey, you're dead now. Like, they just come in blasting. And she's ready for it. And she's whooping ass left and right. Which I think, just like this intro, or like the recap video, is a double-edged sword. Because you're like, if she's handling people so easily, like, why did the Jedi die again? But it's clearly numbers, I guess you would say. And then she doesn't make it, and then the younglings are left for themselves, which is such a terrifying moment. And it's kind of like, damn, I wish we kind of almost had a show of, like, the kids' journeys of, like, what happened. I mean, you assume, what happens next. But, I don't know, I just felt like it was a super interesting premise. But I also felt like we're getting, in this final intro moment, like, the budget, right? Because it doesn't look terrible, but, like, if you look to the left, there's, like, Jedi surrounded by, like, 2 stormtroopers each, and it's like, I don't feel like you guys are in danger. But then if you look over to the right, it's like 1 dude surrounded by like 7, and it's like, oh, I guess I will assume that it was sheer numbers of why the Jedi have died. But even though this intro is dope, it's very much like, why are we starting here? I'm sure the show will eventually tell you why, but like starting with this and then being like Obi-Wan Kenobi, like the intro is like, why? what does this have to do with Obi-Wan? And then the next scene after that, we go and we're meeting the Inquisitors. So it already off the bat, it's like, what is this show about? Now this is gonna be a little spoilery, but we're kind of introduced to the Grand Inquisitor, and I have 2 problems with this. First time we see the Grand Inquisitor ever is in Star Wars Rebels, as far as I'm concerned, real life timeline wise. And he is one of those people from Utapau that has the long head. And for some reason, they're like, nah, we're going to make him look normal and like in face paint. And it's like, this is Disney. Like, where's the budget? Like, we couldn't have put some sort of prosthetic or CGI or something to like make him look the way he is. It'd be like if Yoda was suddenly like had regular ears instead of elf ears, and they're just like, nah, whatever. So he's still Yoda. It's like, no, that's not. He's supposed to be like a little goblin guy, like that's his species. So it's very odd. And then also, in Rebels, he's way more almost like calculated, like calm, and like he almost has control of the situation. Where here he's very talky. He feels almost like he's like coming out of like a stage play. It's odd. I digress. We meet the third sister. She's obsessed with Obi-Wan. It's like, why? Or why you so upset? Doesn't make no sense. We finally get to Obi-Wan, the main character of this show, and I thought it was weird that he's stealing this meat and no one seems to notice or care. But then like a second later, the guy's like, I need to feed my family, and the other guy's like, fuck off. So I was like, what are the vibes of this area? I don't understand what's going on, because it's not like Obi-Wan's using the Force, you know? But clearly, like, Obi-Wan isn't that guy anymore. He's like very sheltered off, which I liked off the bat. But then, you know, he's living in a cave, and I know it's supposed to go into the prequel stuff, but the original trilogy. But it's like, yo, you couldn't find like a motel or you know what I mean, some shitty place to live or whatever, instead of a cave. It's just weird. But then we meet this Jawa, and I like that this Jawa almost seems like Obi-Wan's connection to the city, because he's like, yo, I got these parts in case you need it, you know what I mean? But also like, hey, I heard in town where some Inquisitors looking for a Jedi. I kind of like that he's like, you know, he's almost like his Obi-Wan's informant, which is cool. And then I also like the little joke of like, oh, hey, it looks like your house is missing something. Did you want, like, I just happen to have a spare one. And he's like, listen, my guy, if you're gonna steal my stuff, you know, could you at least fix it up first? So yeah, I kind of like that. Then we got to Obi-Wan having nightmares. And the thing about this show, if we're like coming back to reality, is like one of the biggest things going into this is like, hey, we're bringing back Hayden Christensen, right? And so having all these nightmares of just scenes we had from the movie was like, yo, you guys can add a couple more, like, just little vignettes to show like, hey, yeah, there is the movie stuff, but like Obi and Anakin have really been hanging out for like years now. Because one of the biggest problems of the movies is that it just happened so fast that they, like, you know, suddenly he's a kid and next time we see him he's like 20. You know what I mean? Like, there's no, like, we don't spend enough time. And here it could have been like, again, just small vignettes of like them doing other stuff. And I feel like it was they dropped the ball very hard, especially if they're gonna bring back this character, you know what I mean? And then it ends on Luke being a kid and like being like flying around. And I was like, that's a weird way to end it. I feel like if you're gonna end Obi-Wan having a nightmare scene, end it with Anakin on fire being like, I hate you, you know? Then we got Obi-Wan, and this will lead into the next part. So Obi-Wan is spying on Luke. And it's, I don't think it's supposed to be funny, but it's this really funny scene of like, Luke runs around the side of this tiny house, and Owen's like, where the hell did this kid go? Luke, where are you? And it's like, my guy, if you just take a couple of steps to the left or right around the house, like, he's right there on top. Like, they're not in a big apartment complex, you know what I mean? And then they're in the middle of the desert. I was like, just put like 10% more effort and you'll find the kid. And he's just pretending to be like a pilot, I assume. And then we get this face from Obi-Wan that's like, oh my god, he is his father's son. And it's like, I'm pretty sure a lot of kids would love to fly, you know, or a lot of even people on Tatooine, because I doubt they have the freedom to just kind of leave the planet. So like having like him seeing Luke and being like, oh my god, this is it, is like, that's really odd. And I feel like they could have used a scene from like a couple seconds ago of like, have him look at Luke, have a flashback to Anakin being a pilot and being a pod racer, and then be like, oh man, like this reminds me of, you know, my best friend slash son. But no, we don't get that. So I was like, okay. And then we move on to this Jedi that meets Obi-Wan. And he's like, yo, Master Obi-Wan, like, we gotta figure this out. And he's like, yo, my name's Ben. I am not that guy. You know what I mean? Like, fuck off. And I feel like it's, again, in this moment, just like the earlier scene where he's working, that like, this isn't the Obi-Wan that we know. This guy is very much a hermit. He's like, I want to be left alone. I don't really use the Force like that. I'm just chilling. Like, and even the guy's like, what the hell happened to you? And I feel like this is really setting the, you know, this is the show really doing a good job of being like, he has fallen off. Him fighting Anakin and like deciding to go down this path of just like protecting Luke has really done a raw deal to the Obi-Wan that we know. So shout outs to that, you know? And then we meet up with young Leia. And I like off the bat that she's already rebellious simply because she's a kid. She's like 8. So I'll allow it. It is a little like, okay, like, oh, look, she's already a rebel. It's like, okay, let her grow into it. But I was fine with it because she was so small. You know, kids like to do their own thing and not listen. So it wasn't too heavy-handed. It was just like, it was enough that I liked it. What else do I have? Oh, okay. So we go back to Obi-Wan again. And then... this is where Owen's like, he gives back the toy that I guess he left for Luke, and he's like, yo, fuck off, my guy. And Obi-Wan's like, what? What's the big deal? And it's in this moment that I am on Owen's side, because Obi-Wan's like, oh, like, you know, if Luke has the Force, I gotta be there to help him out. And it's like, my guy, you're a hermit, and you don't use the Force. And so, like, if Luke does have his powers, like, what is your plan here at this age? Like, we see what happens in the old movies, but at this moment, it's like, what is your plan? Like, are you going to train him to be a Jedi, or are you going to train him just in case anything happens? Like, what is your deal, Obi-Wan? And even Owen's like, you know what happened to his father. You know what happened to the Jedi. Why would I let you around my son when everything's gone wrong being a Jedi? I'm just gonna let him be a kid. And I'm like, yeah, Owen, like, stand up for yourself. Obi-Wan, what are you on, my guy? Like, I was just not on his side. Then we get to the scene where Reva is just like, yo, I'm gonna find this Jedi. Someone better speak up or get stepped on. She chops off that one lady's hand. It's just so funny because that lady's like, actually, this is, and she's like, shut the fuck up. Like, you understand what's going on here? And I was like, yeah, I'm about it. I love the dark side. But I thought it was really weird that the other Inquisitor was like, yo, you're taking this too far. And it's like, Inquisitors are directly underneath Vader. Also, so it's like almost like third in chain of command, like Sidious, Vader, Inquisitors, in terms of like Force users, I guess. And you're also the Empire, and you also use the dark side. And again, you've all been trained by Vader. Well, that's in a comic, but they're all under Vader. So for the one dude to be like, this is too far, it's like, do you know what role you're playing and what side you're on? Like, I don't, like, what are we really talking about, my guy? Like, what are we saying? Like, do you know where you are? So that part was fucking weird. Then we go back to Bail. Oh, okay, this is where Bail is having the whole party and Leia doesn't want to be there or whatever. I thought it was funny that Bail was like, yo, I'm trying to spit these hard facts, and the guy's like, listen, I'm just here to drink and have some free food. Like, save that shit for later. That's so funny. And then we get to, I found it interesting that Leia was like, no, we gotta treat droids with respect, right? You're gonna say, please, thank you, like, just, regular niceties. And the other guy's like, no. And it's kind of this interesting thing because droids are almost like slaves. I don't know enough. I'm not political or history based enough to like really, give examples or like break shit down like that. But it was very much like, there's something going on here. I kind of like it. I don't know if you're going to get into it, but I kind of like what's happening. But what I didn't like was that Leia was like, I'm going to systematically break down my cousin for all his flaws. And I was like, this girl's 8 years old. She should have called him like a nerf herder or something and like hurt his feelings like that way. The way that they're writing her is as if she was like a teenager in this moment, and that I didn't appreciate. Like, I like the concept that they're going for, but I didn't like it for the character that we're getting in this 8-year-old Leia. Then, this is the part where she's getting chased by those dudes who are like trying to kidnap her, and it's in this moment that like the TV starting to show where they're chasing after her, but you can tell that they're like, oh, we can't really catch her because it's not part of the scene yet, so we're gonna lightly jog behind her. And she's like doing this like choreographed slide under here, like flip through a tree, and it's like you're losing the magic that should be in a kid's, like almost like a kid's movie, where it's like, oh, she's gonna instead like crawl through this log because she can fit because she's a child and they're not. Like there's no like, I guess, whimsy to it. It almost seems like they're trying to do like, I don't know, like this super choreographed like Tomb Raider type stuff, and it just didn't work for me. In short, it wasn't working. And they just made her seem like she was like super fast and they just couldn't catch her, and I'm like, just grab her. The other thing is like she gets captured, Bail calls up Obi and he's like, yo, you gotta, like, both of these kids are important, you gotta save Leia, because like if I do it, it's gonna be a big scene, and then also we don't want you know who to know that she's alive, so like you gotta handle this stuff. And Obi-Wan's just being a whole bitch. And I like, again, it's working towards the character that they're giving us, but it's just like, it's like, damn, I kind of want him to like have a good reason or whatever, but I know that's not where we are. So I do and don't like this moment, but I think it's more of the fact that like, I know that Obi-Wan's more of an outcast, but it was just like, okay, you're being a little bitch. I don't know, it didn't work for me. But I did like Bail being like, yo, you gotta both these kids are important, so like get your shit together. I think we go back to Leia, Lola. Yeah, so they break Lola, which is like, damn, they just broke this thing in half. And it's really weird of like, how do people see droids? Are they like humans almost, or do they just see them as like walking, talking computers? Tell me, Star Wars, because I'm not sure. But oh yeah, so after this part, I think again Reva wants Obi-Wan. She was like, yo, I need him, he's gonna come to me. And it's like, yo, girl, chill out. Like, what's your deal? And then yeah, we get to Obi-Wan getting his lightsaber, and I thought it was really weird that he's just like in the middle of the desert, and he's like, yeah, right here, this is where I buried them. And he also has Anakin's lightsaber, which is like, when did you get that? Didn't that fall in the lava? But I don't know. But I thought it was just odd that, like, it's a cool concept that he knows where it's buried, but, like, logically, when you think about it for a second, I'm like, this is in the middle of nowhere. There's no, like, markings. It's not, like some weird rock or whatever. It's just in the middle. I was like, it doesn't make sense. And then, at the end, the lady's like, yo, you coming on the ship or whatever? And he's call it adventure time. And he's like, I guess I will. And then he, like, throws his robe open. And I know it's supposed to be this moment for us as the viewers, but it's not like he flashes it a little bit. He like throws his coat open so much that you could see a lightsaber. And I'm like, they just hung. Oh, I forgot to talk about this. I'll talk about this in a second. But I was like, yo, they just killed a Jedi like the other day and like hung him in the streets. Why the hell are you flapping your coat open, Obi-Wan? You're not that guy anymore. Like, damn. So that part was like, this is dumb. Like, I know they want me to be like, oh my god, he's back. But that part did not work for me. So yeah, going back real fast, to the Jedi that gets caught and then hung in the square. My problem with this is, because they decided to do a Disney thing, I am sure, is that you see the feet dangling, and it could have just been a 2-second thing of like, oh damn, they got him, right? But then they're like, no, like don't worry, everybody, and they like pan up, and he's like weirdly like wrapped around his like armpits to like hang there, and then the camera cuts back down to his feet, and they're like, oh, but they hung him, like, look. And I'm like, it would have been so much better if you just showed his feet for 2 seconds and then been like, that shit happened. But like, going out of your way to be like, oh, like, it happened, but not as bad as you think. It's just like, Disney, like, just let adult things be a little bit adult. You know what I mean? Like, this is clearly PG-13. It's not like he was like bloody or whatever. Like, just show the feet and then have it move along and let it be sad and let us sink in with that moment. But they're always trying to coddle stuff because apparently it's all family friendly, or maybe, I don't know. Yeah. So If you're new here, I do a rating of the shows I watch. I have a 3-point scale, I guess you would say. So it is one and done. So you watch the first one and you're out. It is give it a chance, which is I'd watch another one essentially. And I'm in, which is like definitely watching the next one. So for this first episode, I'm going to give this one a I'm in. Or no, sorry. I'm gonna give it give it a chance. My bad. Give it a chance, which is the middle one. The reason I don't say I'm in is because for every thing that's good in this episode, there is a moment I feel almost immediately after that's like, why are you doing that? Whether it's character or the showrunners or whatever. And this is, I feel like, a bigger conversation. This is definitely like a Disney thing of like every time something's good, it's like if you guys would have passed through the script or whatever like one more time, or the show itself, or like whatever the content is, I feel like this would be a little tighter. So for that reason, I can't say I'd give it an I'm in, because it just wasn't, it didn't hit in the way that I wanted it to, but it's interesting enough that I'd be like, that I'd want to watch another episode. So on my 3-point scale, I will give it give it a chance. Yeah. So now, because I have seen the whole season, I am gonna go off the top of my head. So I'm gonna say that now. There's no notes. I haven't rewatched the whole thing. I don't have time for that. So I'm gonna talk about the rest of the season. So if you haven't seen Obi-Wan Kenobi, go watch the rest of the season if you're interested, and then come back and then hear me have this little memory rant about the show. But yeah, for now, if this is it for you, thank you for listening. Be sure to give me some sort of positive thing, whether there's a thumbs up or a comment. Yeah, and we'll see you next time. And then if you're going to stay, I'm going to talk about spoilers in 3, 2, and all right, it's spoiler time. So I remember this show not being good. There's obviously budget things. You know, there are scenes where it's just like, oh, like I wish you would have gave this more money, more time, whatever you need for VFX to like look good. I understand, especially like coming off the Marvel stuff, that like when you have a show, it's not going to be movie quality, and I don't need it to be movie quality, because I understand like there's a reason that blockbuster movies are blockbuster movies, right? They were putting in that budget. But there are scenes, even in this first episode when he's like sitting on the rock, where I'm like, that doesn't look good. There's something off about that your eyes can just figure it out. And it's like, I wish you guys would rather just like give the people time to, you know, make this look good for us. Especially because this is a tentpole. This is Star Wars, you know what I mean? The thing I want to focus on for me is, in terms of Star Wars, I love the dark side. So having them stab the Grand Inquisitor in like one of the first episodes was like, what? And then also knowing that, again, his first appearance was in a show that takes place after this, which is Rebels, was like, why are we getting him out the way? Why can't Reva just be her own character? Why are we like sidelining another character to get her story across? And then the other issue is that Star Wars is setting this precedent where if you're on the dark side and you get hurt in your stomach in some way, that, if you're angry enough, you'll be fine. They did it with Darth Maul in Clone Wars. They did it with Reva twice in this series. They did it with the Grand Inquisitor, and I don't like them being like, if you're angry enough, you'll be fine, because then it's like, what is death then? And then who decides if they're angry enough? You know what I mean? Like, is it the Force? Is it just, hey, we want to keep this character around? I don't like the fact also that Reva's her character is set up to like, I've done everything I need to like get to Darth Vader. Like, this is my time. Like, I've been biding my time so that I can finally kill Anakin Skywalker. And she gets to Luke because she decides that's the move. And then she sees herself as a kid, and she's like, I can't do it. And it doesn't make sense because, it doesn't make sense because we've already set her up as someone who's like willing to get the job done in order to get Anakin. So like now being like, oh, but this is too far. It's just like, oh, you're doing the Star Wars, like you're doing the Ben Solo thing. I don't do the Ben Solo thing. I don't like it. Like just, yeah. So I didn't like that. But in terms of like the rest of the show, it's just like, again, just like this first episode, you're setting up things, but like things aren't properly executed, and you want me to care about some of these characters, especially like when they're trying to do like the path thing, and it's just like I could not give a fuck about some of these people. They did the whole Rise of Skywalker 2 ships, like, oh, he's gonna break this one, but there was another one right behind it when Vader was there, and it's just like, oh, why are we doing this? But to speak on some positives, right? I really liked that moment where Vader's like dragging Obi-Wan through the fire, and he's just like running through that village, because it reminds me it reminds me and the viewer of like, Vader is a force. There's a reason why in like expanded stuff or other canonical stuff, like outside the movies, why people are like, this guy is almost like a Terminator, right? And then yeah, so I really like that part, but I think there was a part where he like turns off the fire, or he like gets Obi-Wan out of the fire, which is like, why would you do that? The whole point is to like watch him burn. So that was weird. And then I really liked the part at the end where the two of them are fighting, and you know, you get the split mask, you get that like Anakin voice, Vader voice, almost like the two of them mixed. You know, you didn't kill Anakin Skywalker, I did. Like, I was the one who chose to become this new person, not you, Obi-Wan. Fuck off. So I like that. But going back to the negative, I remember part of that fight was like too much, where Obi-Wan's power is like too high. And it's one of those Star Wars things where it's like, the more we start getting more technology, the more they can do crazier things in the Force. But if you're going prequels, right, and you're doing crazy things in the Force, it's like, why weren't you guys doing that before? And the answer is obviously budget. Like, you know, back in what, the 80s or whenever, when the original movies, like they don't have the stuff for that. So it's giving this idea of like, well, how powerful is a Jedi? And when do you choose, and when do they choose to use that power? Like, do you lose it over time, or is it a case by case thing? See, and it's, you know, you start setting up rules for this whole universe, you have to apply to them, and then it just makes things messy. I remember Leia kind of being Leia already, which again, first episode, or, you know, whole thing, she's only like 8. So being like, she's going to be who she is for the rest of her life is like, that's not how growing up works. You know, you're not giving a character the chance to grow and be, you know, show us who they are beforehand. You're being like, they've always been this person. And I'm like, well, then why would I need to see them young if they're not learning the lessons that make them become the person that I already know? And then it's also another thing of like, if she meets him now, how come she doesn't remember him? Because it's not like she's like 4, you know what I mean? She's like 8. And it's like, sure, you might not remember that guy, but like, you've met him before. And then, yeah, so I mean, I could keep rambling and I'd probably be all over the place. I don't want to waste too much time. But I just remember, like I said for the first episode, the series just tends to, like, for every cool idea, there's a bad idea. And I feel like there's a lot more where it's like, for one good idea, it starts being 2 bad ideas. You know what I mean? And this just feels like a show that needed to be tighter and less involved in like other things, because again, and I feel like this is a Disney thing where it's like, sometimes just let the story be the story. We don't need to do the prequel thing where you're trying to tell me about like a bunch of things all at once. Sometimes it's better to be more like the originals and be like, hey, there's other things going on in the background, but like the main story is Obi-Wan trying to get Leia back to, you know, home. So yeah, if I had to give the season a rating, I'd give it a 1 and done. Unless they came out with a trailer that was like really like convincing to me, I just don't. I have no affinity to like want more. Like, I'm like, okay, cool, you gave it a chance. I didn't like it. I feel like a bunch of other people didn't like it. Let's move on to something new. So yeah, this is where I'm gonna end the episode. Sorry if I was like rambling too much. Let me know if you like the more note style episode. Maybe I'll do it for the next one and then just see how you guys feel. But yeah, that is it. I appreciate your time. Yeah, be sure to give me something positive or constructive criticism. I'm always looking to improve. And have a great day. Peace.